The eviction notice trembled in Marina's hands as she stood in the dim hallway of her apartment building, the paper feeling heavier than it should. 72 hours. That's all she had left before her 6-year-old daughter Sophia would be sleeping in their car, and the weight of that reality crushed down on her chest like a concrete slab. She had survived her husband walking out 2 years ago. She had survived working double shifts until her feet bled. She had survived skipping meals so Sophia could eat. But this felt like the end of the road, and Marina didn't know if she had any fight left in her. The fluorescent lights of Rosie's diner buzzed overhead as Marina tied her apron with shaking fingers, trying to push the notice out of her mind. She had 48 hours now. 48 hours to somehow conjure up 3 months of back rent, plus late fees, money that might as well have been $1 million. Her manager, a kind woman named Patty, had already advanced her next week's pay, and her mother was barely surviving on her own disability check. There was nowhere left to turn, no one left to ask, no miracle waiting in the wings. But she showed up anyway, because that's what mothers do. They show up even when hope has packed its bags and left town. If you believe in the power of kindness, in second chances, and in the strength of the human spirit, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's build a community of kindness together. Marina had been a waitress at Rosie's for 18 months, ever since her husband Cameron decided that fatherhood and marriage were suffocating his dreams and disappeared to chase some vague notion of freedom in another state. The divorce papers came via email. The child support never came at all. She had reported him, hired a lawyer she couldn't afford, jumped through every legal hoop, but Cameron was skilled at staying invisible, working cash jobs, leaving no paper trail. So Marina became both mother and father, working breakfast and dinner shifts, sleeping in the 4 hours between, surviving on coffee and the desperate love she had for her little girl. Sophia was everything. 6 years old with wild curls that refused to be tamed, and her mother's dark eyes that still sparkled with wonder despite everything. She was in first grade now, reading above her level, drawing pictures of houses with gardens and families with 2 parents and a dog. Innocent wishes that broke Marina's heart every time she saw them taped to their refrigerator. Sophia never complained when dinner was cereal again, never asked why they couldn't go to the movies like her classmates, never questioned why Mommy was always tired. She was brave and beautiful, and deserved so much more than this precarious existence on the edge of disaster. The morning rush at Rosie's was brutal as always. Marina moved through the chaos on autopilot, refilling coffee cups, delivering plates of eggs and bacon, forcing smiles that didn't reach her eyes. Her body ached, a deep, bone-level exhaustion that no amount of sleep could fix. She'd been running on empty for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to be full. But she kept moving, kept serving, kept pretending everything was fine, because the alternative was to collapse right there on the black and white checkered floor, and she couldn't afford to do that. She couldn't afford anything. Around 10:30, when the breakfast crowd had thinned, a man walked in alone and took a seat in Marina's section. She barely registered him at first. Just another customer, another order, another table to clean. But as she approached with her notepad and her rehearsed greeting, something made her actually look at him. He was probably in his late 30s, with tired eyes that matched her own, and a gentle way of moving that suggested someone carrying their own invisible weight. He wore a simple button-down shirt and jeans, nothing fancy, and when he smiled at her, it was the kind of smile that actually reached his eyes, rare enough that it caught her off guard. "Good morning," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Coffee to start?" "Please," he replied softly, "and take your time. I'm in no rush." There was something in his tone, a kindness that wasn't performative, that made Marina's defenses crack just slightly. She nodded and went to grab the coffee pot, willing her hands not to shake as she poured. His name was Owen, though she wouldn't learn that until later. He ordered simple breakfast, scrambled eggs, wheat toast, a side of fruit, and as Marina brought his food, he thanked her with genuine warmth. She noticed he was reading a children's book while he ate, one with bright illustrations peeking out from under his phone. A father, she thought. Something about that made her chest tighten. What must it be like to have a partner? Someone to share the load, someone to tag in when you were too tired to stand? The diner filled and emptied in waves throughout the day. Marina's feet screamed in protest with every step, her lower back a constant throb she'd learned to ignore. Owen stayed for a while, working on his laptop, ordering more coffee, always patient and polite when she checked on him. She found herself wondering about his story. Everyone had one, after all. What brought someone to a weekday diner alone with a children's book and laptop? But she didn't have time for curiosity. She had tables to clear, orders to deliver, and a ticking clock in her head, counting down to homelessness. When Owen finally asked for his check, Marina calculated it quickly. $23.47. She placed the small folder on his table with a tired smile and turned to attend to a family of 4 who'd just been seated. She was taking their drink orders when she heard Owen's quiet voice behind her. "Excuse me, Marina." He'd read her name tag. "I think there might be a mistake with the check." Her heart sank. Had she miscalculated? She couldn't afford another error. Patty had been patient with her lately, but everyone had limits. She excused herself from the family and hurried back to Owen's table, her mind racing through the math. "I'm so sorry, let me recalculate." No, he said gently, standing up. "The check is fine. I just wanted to make sure you got this." He handed her the folder, and when Marina opened it, her breath caught in her throat. Inside was his credit card receipt. The meal total, $23.47. The tip line, $3,000. The total, $3,023.47. His signature at the bottom, clear and deliberate. Marina stared at the numbers, certain her exhausted brain was playing tricks on her. She blinked hard, looked again. Still $3,000. Her hands began to shake so violently that the folder nearly slipped from her grasp. This has to be a mistake," she whispered. "You meant $30, right? You added an extra zero?" Owen shook his head slowly, his eyes locked on hers with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. "No mistake. I meant 3,000. The diner seemed to tilt on its axis. Marina gripped the edge of the table to steady herself, her mind unable to process what was happening. $3,000. It was exactly what she needed for the back rent and fees. How could he possibly know? "I can't accept this," she managed, though every cell in her body was screaming at her to take it, to run to the bank, to save her daughter from sleeping in their car. "This is too much. I don't understand." "Please," Owen said quietly, and there was something raw in his voice now, something that spoke of his own pain. "Please take it. You have no idea how much I need you to take it." Marina looked up at him, really looked, and saw tears gathering in the corners of his eyes. This wasn't about pity. This was about something else entirely, something deeper and more complicated than a generous stranger helping a struggling waitress. Her own tears spilled over before she could stop them, hot tracks down her cheeks that she didn't bother to wipe away. "Why?" she whispered. "You don't even know me." Owen was quiet for a long moment, and when he finally spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. 5 years ago, I was standing where you are now. Single parent, drowning in bills, working myself to dust, terrified I was going to lose my son. I was a janitor at an office building downtown, working nights, sleeping in my car between shifts so I could afford the deposit on an apartment. I was 3 days away from giving up, from admitting I couldn't do it, from calling my parents and begging them to take my boy because I'd failed him. Marina's breath hitched as Owen continued, his own tears falling freely now. And then a lawyer who worked in that building, a woman I'd never spoken to beyond hello, saw me sleeping in my car one morning. She didn't call security. She didn't look away. She asked me what I needed, and when I told her, she wrote me a check for $5,000. Just like that. She said, "I was you once. Someone helped me. Now I'm helping you. One day when you can, help someone else." That was it. She changed my entire life with one act of kindness. The diner had gone quiet around them, though Marina barely noticed. Other customers were watching now, tissues appearing, eyes glistening. Even Patty had emerged from the kitchen, her hand over her mouth. "I wanted to pay her back so many times over the years," Owen said, his voice breaking. "I have a good job now. I'm stable. My son is thriving. But when I tried to find her last year, I learned she'd passed away. Cancer. I never got to tell her that she saved us, that her kindness rippled out into everything good in my life. So now I look for people who need help, who are fighting like I was fighting. And I saw you today, the way you move like every step costs you, the way you smile like it's armor, the way you look at that phone during your break like you're checking for disaster news. I recognized that look. I lived that look." Marina couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but cry as this stranger, this beautiful, broken, generous stranger, handed her a lifeline wrapped in his own survival story. $3,000, enough to keep the roof over Sophia's head, enough to buy them time, enough to prove that the universe hadn't completely forgotten them. "I saw the paper sticking out of your apron pocket," Owen added softly, gesturing to where the eviction notice had been folded and shoved, her dirty secret. "I don't know your whole story, but I know enough. Please take it. Please let me be the stranger who helps you today." "I have a daughter," Marina heard herself say through the sobs. "Sophia. She's 6. She draws pictures of houses with gardens. She shouldn't have to worry about where she's going to sleep, but I've been so scared." Her voice cracked completely, and then Owen did something unexpected. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her in a hug that felt like the universe itself was holding her together. "You're not going to lose your home," he whispered. "And your daughter is going to grow up knowing her mother fought for her with everything she had. That's worth more than any garden." Marina clung to him. This stranger who understood, who had been there, who was proof that it was possible to survive the unsurvivable. Around them, the diner had erupted in quiet tears and applause, but she barely heard it. All she could feel was the weight lifting, the breath returning to her lungs, the hope that had abandoned her creeping back in. When they finally pulled apart, Owen smiled at her, that same genuine smile from earlier, but brighter now, lighter. "Take the money to the bank today if you can. Get yourself squared away. And then—" He paused, reaching into his wallet and pulling out a business card. "If you ever need anything, a reference, help finding a better job, someone to talk to who gets it, call me. My son and I are doing okay now, and we believe in paying it forward." Marina took the card with trembling fingers. "Owen Castellano, Senior Project Manager," it read. A phone number, an email, a lifeline extended beyond this single moment. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "Thank me by accepting it," Owen replied. "Thank me by being there for your daughter. And one day, when you're on the other side of this, help someone else. That's how this works. That's how we save each other." He left then, walking out of Rosie's diner and into the bright morning sunshine, leaving Marina standing there with $3,000 and her faith in humanity restored. Patty immediately gave her the rest of the day off, pressing another tissue into her hand and telling her to go take care of business. Marina called her landlord from the parking lot, her voice shaking but strong, and told him she'd have the money within the hour. She called her mother and sobbed the whole story. She called Sophia's school and told them she'd be picking her up early for a special afternoon. And then she drove to the bank, deposited the check, confirmed it was real, and watched as her account balance transformed from negative to positive for the first time in months. She got the certified check for the landlord, hand-delivered it to his office, and stood there as he marked her account current and ripped up the eviction notice. The relief was so intense it made her dizzy. When she picked up Sophia from school, her daughter bounded into the car with her usual enthusiasm, chattering about her day, about the butterfly they'd seen at recess, about the math problem she'd solved. Marina listened to every word like it was the most important story in the world, because it was. This was her daughter's innocence, her childhood, her right to worry about butterflies instead of rent. And because of Owen's kindness, because of a stranger who saw himself in her struggle, that innocence was protected for a while longer. If this story has touched your heart, if you believe in the power of paying it forward, please hit that like button and leave a comment below. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still exists in this world. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who desperately need to hear them. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Marina sat at their tiny kitchen table and wrote Owen a letter. She told him about Sophia's reaction when she'd explained, in 6-year-old terms, that a kind person had helped them. She told him about the garden Sophia wanted to plant now that they weren't moving. She told him about the promise she was making to herself and to him, that she would climb out of this hole, that she would build something stable for her daughter, and that one day she would help someone else the way he'd helped her. Before we close this story, we want to ask you something special. In the comments below, share one act of kindness you've experienced or witnessed. Let's create a thread of hope and remind each other that good people still exist. We can't wait to read your stories. 6 months later, Marina got a job as an office administrator with better hours and better pay, thanks to a reference from Owen, who'd connected her with a colleague. She and Sophia moved into a small house with a yard, and they planted that garden together, tomatoes and sunflowers and wildflowers that attracted butterflies. On the 1-year anniversary of the day Owen left more than a tip, Marina wrote a check for $1,000, all she could afford, but it was something, and gave it to a young mother she'd seen struggling at a grocery store, counting change for diapers with tears in her eyes. The woman had looked at her in shock, much like Marina had looked at Owen, and Marina had simply smiled and said, "I was you once. Someone helped me. Now I'm helping you. One day when you can, help someone else." Because that's how this works. That's how we save each other. One act of kindness at a time, one stranger seeing themselves in another's struggle, one moment of generosity that ripples out across years and lives and futures. Owen hadn't just given Marina $3,000 that day at Rosie's Diner. He'd given her hope, dignity, and the knowledge that she wasn't alone in this fight. He'd reminded her that her struggle was seen, that her strength mattered, and that sometimes the universe sends help in the form of a single dad who remembers what it's like to be desperate. Marina kept Owen's business card in her wallet, though she'd long since saved his number in her phone. They'd become friends over the months. Their kids had play dates, and sometimes they'd meet for coffee and share the ups and downs of single parenthood. But that card was her talisman, her reminder that miracles do happen, that people can be good, and that one person's kindness can literally change the trajectory of another person's entire life. Sophia grew up knowing this story. It became part of their family mythology, the tale of the stranger who saved them when they needed it most. And as she got older, she understood the deeper lesson, that we're all connected, that we all struggle, and that the smallest act of seeing someone, really seeing them, can be the difference between despair and hope. Marina never forgot what Owen told her that day, that she'd thank him by being there for her daughter and by helping someone else when she could. She did both. She was there for every school play, every scraped knee, every homework struggle, every triumph. And she helped, quietly, consistently whenever she had the chance. A struggling coworker who needed a ride, a neighbor who couldn't afford their medication, a young family at the food bank who reminded her so much of her younger self. The story of the single dad who left more than a tip became Marina's North Star, guiding her through the years that followed. There were still hard times, still moments when the money was tight and the future uncertain. But she was never as desperate as she'd been that day, with the eviction notice trembling in her hands, because she'd learned something profound, that help can come from unexpected places, that kindness is real and powerful, and that we're never as alone as we feel in our darkest moments. Years later, when Sophia graduated from college, the first in their family to do so, Marina invited Owen to the celebration. He came with his son, who was graduating from high school the same spring, and they all stood together in the sunshine, a makeshift family forged not by blood, but by compassion. As Sophia gave her valedictorian speech and mentioned her mother's resilience as her greatest inspiration, Marina caught Owen's eye across the crowd. He smiled at her, that same genuine smile from the diner all those years ago, and she smiled back, knowing that they'd both made it, they'd both survived, they'd both paid it forward. And in that moment, Marina understood the full circle of that kindness. Owen had helped her because someone had helped him. She'd helped others because Owen had helped her. And somewhere out there, those people were helping someone else, creating an endless chain of compassion that stretched across lives and years and circumstances. This was the legacy that mattered, the inheritance worth passing down, the truth that made all the struggle worthwhile. We save each other, always. In the small moments and the grand gestures, in the tips that change lives and the words that change hearts, we save each other. That's what it means to be human.